Welcome back to Real Life Reviews, and in this video we're right back onto the Tri shoes. We're looking at the Asics Noosa Tri 13. It tells you on the shoe Noosa and Tri 13. Asics' latest iteration of this long running series of shoes, specifically designed originally for triathletes, but actually a pretty damn good running shoe in its own right. First then, where does this shoe sit in this progression that Asics seem to have in their triathlon shoes? And Asics have a bit of a habit of making small tweaks to get shoes just a little bit better and releasing them as a new shoe. And that's fine. I don't have a complaint with that if these small tweaks are working. My personal opinion of the 12 over the 11 was it tried to be too clever on itself. And if you remember the tongue with the hole, you pulled the tongue, it curled the tongue. There were little things on that I was less impressed with. This shoe, to paraphrase a well-known expression, this shoe is almost a step back to take 2 steps forwards. And I'll explain what I mean about that in a moment. However, what remains the same? The colorway. Okay, it's not exactly the same, but Asics have had some pretty in-your-face colorways, and if you like it, you've got it again. Second, this is a neutral shoe, or so Asics say. The 11 and previously we looked at support shoes. The 12 was released as a neutral shoe. This is the 13. It's released as a neutral. However, this shoe from midsole down is basically an Evo Ride 2. And we'll go into that again in a short while. It's an Evo Ride 2. Asics themselves say the Evo Ride 2 is a neutral and supinated shoe. So if you need a bit of support, actually I do like this shoe. If I give it a twist, it's actually really quite firm, and if I feel for the arch, there's quite a bit of support there. So the two things I'm looking for in a support shoe is that sort of resistance to twisting and the arch. If I just delve down to the 11 actually twists a lot easier. Not a lot easier, it's still stiff. It twists easier than the 13, and it's got a very similar arch. Yes, I know I've used this shoe obviously an awful lot, and it's probably worn itself in a bit. However, I would not worry. I like a support shoe, and if you want a support shoe, I would not dismiss this shoe just because Asics say it's for neutral runners. It's actually really quite resistant in that torsional area. From the top then, it's a little thing, but the shoe comes with laces. It also comes with elastics in the box. I've not been using these elastics, I've actually been using older ones. I've currently got the laces in with a heel lock pattern because I've been doing some longer runs. Really enjoying the longer runs in these shoes. It's a little nod to that when I say step back to go a step forwards, but it's an indication that this is a runner's shoe. We're back to it being an Evo Ride 2 from the midsole downwards. Do I like that? It's just a nod, I think. The upper on this shoe is Asics engineered mesh upper, which we're getting used to now. It's breathable, it's light. We mentioned the word light. The Tri 13 here, we've just weighed this in at 234 grams. The Tri 12 we currently have, we've just reweighed that at 236. So it's 2 grams lighter than the Tri 12. Marginal gains, but it does look a much chunkier shoe, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a short while. The big shift in weight for these shoes, well, that came from the 11 to the 12. The 11, and we've just reweighed our 11, 275 grams. So 275, 236 at the 12, 234 at the 13. We're now 41 grams lighter than the Tri 11. So it is a much lighter shoe, and it does feel light. Now we come to the elements that I really refer to when I talk about 1 step backwards for 2 steps forwards. My criticism of the Tri 12 was, and if I just quickly switch round, the tongue and it looked a good idea at the time, had a hole in it, and that was to help you just put your finger in, and when you're pulling on quickly in transition. The trouble is, what happens with that is when you pull with your finger, the tongue curls. It takes a bit of technique to actually get it and do it. And even with practice and your thumb, you're still getting a bit of curl on it. The other thing was the tab went from a normal hook tab to a very lightweight. It felt flimsy. It wasn't flimsy, Asics. It was very strong, but it just wasn't what I wanted. It was a finger thumb grip at the heel, where actually what I want is I want to get a finger in the heel and I want to be able to pull it quite hard. So step backwards, but with really good design. We're back to a proper pull tab that you can get your finger in and give it a good yank. And the tongue itself, if I can just arrange the tongue, is back to being a flat tongue, but it's got a rubberized grip on the top of the tongue. And what it does is it encourages you to grip the tongue with your forefinger and your thumb like that. So you're gripping like that, and you open the tongue up with another finger in the tab. It is a much quicker shoe to put on. So that's what I mean when I talk about a step back for 2 steps forward. It's gone backwards a little bit in principle. I like the grip on the tongue. If you hold it right and work it right, this shoe is much quicker in transition and much more friendly to your sprint, Olympic, where the transition time is going to be far more important to you. Once you've got your foot inside, well, it's a classic Asics sock liner. It's really comfortable to wear sockless, and you would expect that. The other element about the sock liner that Asics are talking about with this shoe is it uses fewer resources in the colouring of it, so it's a bit more environmentally friendly. It's not a massive step, but it's a help, and we've got to give them credit for that. So it's a comfortable sock liner. It's also the tongue, and if I can open it up a bit, maybe you can see the tongue is semi-gusseted in there. So if you are running a course that does take you just off-road for a little bit, or is dusty and sandy, you're far less likely to get little bits of grit in the shoe. So semi-gusseted on the tongue, and a really comfortable sockless run feel for the sock liner in this shoe. Excellent. Right then, the meat of this shoe. This is a runner's shoe. We have Flytefoam midsole, and we have the Aharplus outsole. You will probably have noticed already, this shoe's called the Noosa, not the gel Noosa. So we're looking at Flytefoam all the way through. What do these two combined together give you? Well, they give you a really smooth transition, particularly with a midsole strike, but also with a bit of a heel strike, which I quite like. And every now and then we get a little bit tired. This shoe gives a really great transition from mid to heel through to toe push. If I try to give this shoe a push and a bend, it's really quite snappy. It's firm, and in some respects it's very similar, or it's getting close to some of these carbon plate shoes, Nike's Alpha Fly, Next Percent, those sorts of shoes. Not the same. It's a slightly different feel, but it is snappy. It's not a bouncy shoe. It's not massively plush. It's not like some of these big high hokers that you can get if that's what you want, but it's using what Asics call their Guidesole technology, and all in all, it's making the shoe, helping to make the shoe lighter, and with, as I've just said about the midsole and heel strike, it's arguably making the shoe more friendly to a larger range of runners. The philosophy behind this whole Guidesole technology, and the Guidesole is to a large degree is the curve that you've got in the shoe, is to lessen the load on your lower limbs as you're impacting through the run by implementing this curved sole design. It apparently helps running efficiency, and in particular reduces movement at the ankle. What's the effect of this? Well, what I've what I've started to feel, I believe, is that over longer runs, I do feel fresher for longer. Now, that there might be an element of psychology in that. It's a new shoe, I'm enjoying running in it. But certainly this is what Asics are saying, is that the effect should be that you do feel fresher for longer. I would concur that the shoe does feel lightweight as a result of this. And it's definitely got more cushioning. I used the Tri 11, the Gel Noosa Tri 11, in the marathon of the Outlaw in 2019. And that was a horrible race. It was horribly wet. The path by the river was really muddy, and then lots of pavement around the rowing lake and in the town. And it was a fantastic shoe. This shoe definitely has more cushioning if we go back 2 iterations, and is much nicer for longer runs. Having said that about longer runs, there will still be a large number of you out there who will want more cushioning. This is, as I get older, I wouldn't like to wear my Tri 11 for another marathon at the end of an Ironman. I would wear this shoe though, and I find it really comfortable. So again, it's not the plushest of feel, it's not the most cushioning, but it is a huge step up in terms of cushioning from Asics. In a similar vein, if I look at that snappiness and give around the ball of the foot, here's an 11. If you remember the sole, it had that little cutaway, and without much force, the 11 bent quite easily there, and yet it comes back, but it's nowhere near as snappy. And in terms of stepping forwards, if I pick up the 12, then the 12 again was firmer, but still it bent quite comfortably. I'm just one finger pushing that, but it does snap back much quicker. So that was a step forward from the 11 to the 12. If I take the 13, I can't push and break that with one finger. I can put I've got to really work quite hard, and it's all about this outsole and the midsole working together to give you that push off. That's a big step forwards to my mind in this shoe. So lots about the midsole and the outsole working together. The outsole itself, well, that's Asics Aharplus outsole. It gives increased durability over previous outsoles. Those of you that know the Evo Ride 2 will recognize the sole pattern. It is, albeit with different colors, it is the Evo Ride 2 outsole pattern. So it's tried and tested as a running shoe, and it is going to increase durability. Benefits of increasing durability, well, this is a shoe that isn't just for competition. Don't stick it in the locker, bring it out for competition day and put it back. This is a shoe that you can use for training as well. You can use it for tempo runs, you can use it for long training runs, and you're going to get good wear out of it. So it ticks more boxes for me there. But in particular though, on this sole, it's the stiffness and return, and it gives a really crisp feel to the shoe. For those of you that like your figures, this shoe has a drop of 5mm. We have a heel stack of 25, and we have a forefoot stack of 20mm. So a 5mm drop. The shoe, in terms of complete stack, again, I mentioned Hoka earlier, we're not quite in the realms of the sort of stack that Hoka have, but again, if we look backwards and compare, there's the stack of the 11, we sort of chunk up a bit for the 12, and here we are with the 13. So we're getting a bit more stack. I quite like it. It adds to the comfort feel for me. There we are, the Asics Noosa Tri 13. And I really do think Asics have got back on top of their game with a triathlon running shoe. And this is a shoe you can run in. It's not a race day, well, it is a race day shoe, but it's not a race day only shoe. You can train in this shoe, and this has gone back to the top of my list of favorite shoe for triathlons. I said earlier it was a step back to take 2 steps forward, and all credit to Asics for what they've done in terms of the tongue and the heel loop, but also then in integrating with the Flytefoam, the Guidesole, the Aharplus outsole, and everything else. So we've got forwards and we've got a little step back, which in its own sense has brought the shoe forwards. So yeah, I can recommend this shoe to anybody doing triathlon, from the shortest of distances all the way through to Ironman. My only proviso is if you want a lot of cushioning, you're going to look for something slightly different. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and also share with your friends. And if you'd like to buy the shoe, well, in the description down below, we've got a link to Wiggle, and they're selling this shoe. And if you go through that link, we get a tiny proportion of what you spend. You can get some really good deals and everything. It just helps keep the channel going. You might also want to have a look at the Noosa 12, and Wiggle have also still got that in stock as well. So please have a look at the link below. If you haven't yet subscribed, well, click on the round picture just down there. If you want to visit our website where we've got other affiliates, that's down there. And if you'd like to have a look at that review of the Gel Noosa 12, well, that's up there. And we've also got the review of Nike's Alpha Fly Next Percent just up there. Thank you for watching.